Hey the YouTube, is your boy Lipid out here with another reaction video. Today we got the worst crash that never happened, Neo. I think it's the YouTube channel here. But yeah, let's get right into it, shall we? Hit it.
Just one more easy landing and the pilots can call it a day. What they are not aware of is that the airport looks quite a bit different than usual. They are cleared to land on runway 28 right, located next to 28 left. However, due to maintenance, the runway 28 left is closed that night, and the lights had been turned off. But as the pilots who both have landed at this airport before were expecting to see two parallel runways, they make a mistake, thinking that the center runway is 28 left. They confuse the taxiway on the right to be runway 28 right.
What? Huh?
On that very taxiway, 4 other flights are lined up for departure. United 1, a Boeing
I can see why people would say this would be worse than Tenerife. Bro, there are 4 flights there.
787, Philippine Airlines 115, an Airbus 340, and 2 more United flights. In total, over 1,000 passengers, and the Air Canada flight is heading straight towards them all. The information about the runway closure was listed in a so-called NOTAM. These are notices to airmen which summarize any exceptional details regarding the flight. But these lists are quite long, typically several pages. And it's not easy to pick out the details that are actually relevant for the flight. The flight crew missed the runway closure. The pilots had been cleared for a so-called visual approach. This means that they can line up with the runway manually, steering the aircraft according to what they see. Considering the clear weather conditions, the visual approach is the normal procedure. But as landings on false runways or even taxiways have occurred before, careful pilots usually back up their approach with instrument guidance.
You would think, yeah, like I follow air crash investigation a lot, love the series, but you would think that they'd have, even if you're not using the ILS instrumentation, you would still have a system in place to help you identify the runway you are landing at, logically.
In this case, they could have used the Instrument Landing System, ILS for short, of runway 28 right, to confirm that they really were on the right path. In order to activate this system, a frequency corresponding to that runway has to be dialed into the navigation receiver.
Right, and it would tell you which left or right.
Modern flight management computers usually do this automatically, but in this case, it had to be dialed in manually, and for some reason, the first officer didn't do that. The cockpit crew has had a long day. Coming from Toronto, Canada, their inner clock is already at 3 past midnight. And overconfidence and fatigue have been attributed to these.
Yeah, I can see where they're going with this. It's like the idea of, well, you're already tired, you've done this approach hundreds of times, you're so used to the runway, and you're on a go mindset, which is basically you're committed to landing. And your body or your mind reinforces the fact that you're right and disregards everything else that it might think is wrong. I can see that happening, yeah.
Mistakes. Canadian pilot fatigue rules were less stringent than US regulations, and the flight's captain had no significant rest period for the last 19 hours.
Yo, wait a minute, hold on a second. Every single air crash investigation episode I've watched, which is based on like the American NTSB, has been, you need to let pilots rest. You would think other countries would follow the basic principle of, your pilots, they're flying your passengers and people in the air, they might need to sleep better. If they don't, you are screwed. You're begging for an accident to happen. Then again, there's a reason why I think in general industries, even the oil, even heavy machinery, manufacturing, you would say that safety rules, especially road safety as well, you would say safety rules are written in blood, because unless you have a serious accident, people don't really care. So, yeah, fair enough.
As no one recognized that the airplane is lined up for the taxiway, Air Canada heads closer and closer to disaster. The ideal flight path for the visual approach at this airport comes in at a slight angle from the right. This was done in order to have incoming planes stay further away from the west shore
you have
of the
two,
bay, reducing noise
runways,
pollution.
right? Left and right.
Therefore, it is not unusual that from the tower perspective, airplanes appear a little offset to the left of the runway.
Oh my god, I realized what... Okay, wow, he's right. So you could have a plane that's coming towards the runway, but since I don't know what it is about the human eye, you can't really differentiate if they're going to the left or right until they're right on top of the runway, which I think is the exact problem between the plane and the passengers there as well. Oh,
Center line.
Wow.
Air Canada further closes
And that's
in
when
on the
they
runway,
realized,
about to crash into the parked planes. And as they notice that something seems off, they reassure themselves.
And Tower, just want to confirm this Air Canada 759. We see some lights on the runway there. Across the runway, can you confirm a clear land?
At this moment, the tower voice recording shows that it took the tower controller about 5 seconds to answer the call.
Air Canada 759, confirm clear to land, runway 28 right, there is no one on 28 right, flight you.
I see, and this is where your your mental map of the situation differs, because the air traffic control thinks you're heading for 28 right, the actual 28 right, while the pilots think the 28 right is the taxiway, and that divergence of their mental map would have led to disaster here. Yeah. But
there was only one controller managing the traffic at this time.
Okay, that is...
Normally, an additional ground controller is responsible for handling the ground traffic.
Yeah.
But during the less busy night hours, the tower controller often works both frequencies.
Who on earth thought it was a good idea to have one air traffic control in any... I get it, they want to reduce costs, but I think the minimum rule of safety should be 2 people working, for sure. One backup and one main, for redundancies at least.
The pilots of United Flight 1,
stupid
waiting as first in line on taxiway Charlie, were listening in on this exchange with Air Canada. They probably were wondering why Air Canada was still so far to the left of the center line. When it became obvious to them that the plane was heading for the taxiway, they spoke up quickly, not even mentioning their own call sign in order to save any second.
Where's this guy going? He's on the taxiway. Air Canada, go around.
In the go around, Air Canada 759.
Oh, that is close.
What we just witnessed could have been the largest accident in general aviation.
He may have missed the first plane. There were 3 planes behind him, but holy shit. You're telling me the only reason this accident was avoided was because someone decided to speak up and say, oh, by the way, he's on the taxiway. And the controller immediately just picked on that and just said, doesn't matter who's speaking, go around, we'll figure it out later, which I think was a smart decision.
Ever happened.
Oof.
Air Canada 759 missed the tail fins of the waiting aircraft only by a few meters.
759, looks like you were lined up for Charlie there.
Yeah, you should have cut the...
Fly heading 280, climb maintain 3000.
Heading 280, 3000, Air Canada 759.
I don't know what it is in his voice, but I can guarantee he was shitting his pants. I can guarantee that.
United 1, Air Canada flew directly over us. Yeah, I saw that guy.
Yikes.
This real footage of the incident shows just how close the planes were. A full investigation was launched.
Holy shit, how close do those fins get? Not to mention, actually, wait, hold on. If I'm not... Wait, hold on, let me go back.
Shows just how close the planes
Yeah, the Philippine
were.
Airlines turned on their lights. You can see... Hold on, let me see if I can... Yeah, you can see it here. They turn on their lights. Hold on. Yeah.
This real footage of the incident shows just
because they were
close
heading right for them to
planes
turn on their
were.
lights. They realized something is there in front of them. They took off.
A full investigation
That's
was
close
launched, and
too.
a National Transportation Safety
That is
Board
close
has released
too.
an entire list of recommendations,
Jeez.
many of which have already been implemented.
Jeez.
Visual approaches at night are no longer allowed at San Francisco
Good call.
when an adjacent runway is closed. Furthermore, 2 air traffic controllers are now required to be on duty
I'm
until
sorry, what is this whole stigma with the ILS? Could you not just use the ILS for every landing? I get it, some pilots, I know there's one point which is like, oh, but you still want to practice a manual landing. Fair enough. But can't you just use the ILS to get you as close to the runway as possible? Use the ILS to check if the runway is there, and then you can take manual control. Like, wouldn't that just be a better procedure, I guess? To me speaking, though.
late night arrival rush is over. The incident became a striking reminder of the dangers of miscommunications at airports. But whether enough lessons had really been learned is increasingly being put into question, as this year saw an unprecedented amount of close calls at U.S. airports.
A close call between two planes at New York's JFK Airport is now under federal investigation.
In Austin, an airport crisis caught just in time.
This fourth close call of the year happened at Burbank Airport on Wednesday.
Well, tonight the FAA has launched an investigation into yet another near collision of two aircraft, this one at Boston Logan International Airport.
This morning, another close call between two planes is under investigation. The FAA says a Republic Airways flight crossed the wrong runway at Reagan National Airport.
On January 13, 2023, two airplanes almost crashed into each other at JFK Airport in New York City. American Airlines Flight 106 was coming from the northwest along taxiway Bravo. To get to the departure end of runway 4 left, where they were going to take off, they were told to taxi along Bravo and then turn onto Kilo.
6 Heavy Kennedy right on their 4 left, taxi left, Bravo, Kilo.
Note that the pilot did not read back the runway assignment, but just the taxi route. This is a minor deviation from protocol, and the controller simply dismissed it, something that will prove dangerous. At about the same time as they reached that intersection, Delta Airlines Flight 1943 was ready for takeoff on runway 4 left and received its final clearance.
Delta 1943, wind 35018, gust 24, runway 4 left, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 4 left.
And you already know what's going to happen, but I can see from the controller's perspective is just they have so many flights to clear. They don't really have time to just keep checking each one as seriously as they should. But I give them props for just trying to shoot those planes out. I think they give the right directions. They said because they want the same flight, the flight that's coming in, just to take off from the same place this flight is taking off, which is fair enough.
Meanwhile, American Airlines 106 is continuing to taxi and is instructed to turn at Kilo.
Okay.
American 106 Heavy, cross runway 31 left at Kilo.
Uh-oh.
But
Oh
instead
no, that's right
of
into the
turning
path of...
right onto Kilo, they taxi straight ahead onto Juliet, thereby crossing the very same runway on which the Delta flight is departing. Why the pilots of the American Airlines flight continued taxiing straight ahead is unclear. JFK does often operate departures on runway 31 left. Perhaps the pilots were so used to that taxi route
that actually makes sense. I would imagine since they're so mentally used to just taking this road, going all the way back and taking off from there, I can see that. Yeah.
in their
complacency.
mind they were going to take off
It's
from
a
there.
killer disease.
Another factor that might have pre-programmed them to believe they were departing from 31 left was that the current winds were 340 degrees with 18 knots and gusts of 24 knots. These conditions would have favored runway 31 left for departure. For operational reasons, however, the airport was using runway 4 left for departure. Also noteworthy is that both flight crews could not hear each other. American 106 was on the ground frequency, while Delta 1943
Tower, right?
was on the tower frequency.
There's two of them.
They were talking to different controllers and did not have a mental picture of what the other one was doing.
This is a close call, so I imagine they stopped on time.
Thankfully, just seconds after the mistake, the tower controller notices what's happening and reacts extremely well.
American 106 Heavy, American 106 Heavy, hold position. American 106 Heavy, hold position.
You do want to know the unknown that just came in and said, shit.
106 Heavy, American 106 Heavy, hold position.
Shit.
American 106 Heavy,
Fair
hold
enough.
position.
It's valid in the circumstance. Cancel, yeah.
Delta 1943, cancel takeoff plan.
It just rejects, yeah.
All right, and the Delta
That relief in his voice, yeah, good.
The Delta plane comes to a stop about 1,000 feet shy of intersection Juliet, and nobody was injured. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration categorizes runway incursions by type and severity. Besides the incursions that actually result in an accident, there are 4 categories ranging from close calls in which a collision was just narrowly avoided, to errors that at no point posed any security risks. The JFK incident was serious enough to be categorized as
Category B,
B. Looking at the statistics, it can be observed that the number of serious incidents over the past 2 decades has been going down. While there were 22 Category A incidents in 2007, there have never been more than 9 such incidents per year in the past decade. As far as Category B incursions are concerned, a similar trend is visible.
If you look at the last decade or so, you would see between 10 and 20 times a year typically that this would happen. This year we're on track to have more than 20, and even one is one that I would not like to see happen.
The JFK incident has put a large media spotlight on airport safety, but still, it will just take 3 weeks until the next close call. This one, perhaps the most scary one.
Oh?
Flight FedEx 1432, a Boeing 767 cargo plane, was coming from Memphis and arrived in the early morning hours in Austin. As happens so often in Austin, the ground is covered with a thin layer of fog, just about 1,000 feet thick, but very dense. They are still high above that fog layer, enjoying a clear sky.
I can already guess where this is going, where they're just above the fog layer, so they can't really see.
But they
can't see what's going on below them, and they come out of the fog to see something really intense. This is my guess. Seeing where this is going.
Dive through it for their landing.
Austin Tower, FedEx 1432 Heavy, passing 5.4 for the Cat 3 ILS.
Category 3 instrument landing system. Okay.
Due to the low visibility, FedEx 1432 had to execute what is called a Category 3 instrument approach, a procedure applied at very low visibility and clouds reaching almost to the ground. For such approaches, the auto-land system of the airplane is used and the flight crew only monitors the correct operations of all systems.
Which is great, honestly.
This in itself is just routine for the flight crew and nothing unusual.
FedEx 1432 Heavy, Austin Tower, 18 left RVR, touchdown 1,400, midpoint 600, roll out 1,800, 18 left, middle pass.
Solid.
The RVR value given by the tower controller denotes the visibility in feet at 3 different points along the runway. Near the touchdown point, the middle, and the end. The phrase passing 5.4 means that they are 5.4 miles away from the ILS transmitter, which sits at the end of the runway. At just this moment, Southwest 708 calls in.
Tower, Southwest 708, we're short of 18 left, we're ready.
You're going to be able to hear in his voice. My man is relaxed. He's like, we're ready. We're ready to do it. He's relaxed. Oh, no.
Austin Tower, runway 18 left RVR 1,200, midpoint 600, roll out 1,600. Flight heading 170, runway 18 left, clear for takeoff, traffic 3 mile final is a heavy 767.
Okay, 170, clear for takeoff, 18 left, copy the traffic, Southwest 708.
The tower controller's intention is to have the Southwest flight take off on the same runway before the FedEx lands.
And I guess they don't make it out on time.
3 miles is usually a comfortable spacing to let a departure slip in front. And the phrase, traffic on 3 mile final is a heavy 767, is to inform the Southwest crew about the incoming FedEx plane, which requires them to do a speedy departure.
Good call.
But things take longer than expected. Time is ticking as the FedEx is entering the fog layer, not able to see anything out of their cockpit windows anymore. Their distance to the runway has now shrunk to merely 1.2 miles, and they are becoming nervous about the Southwest still sitting on the runway.
Tower confirm, FedEx 1432 Heavy, clear to land on 18 left.
FedEx 1432 Heavy, that is affirmative, sir. 18 left, you are clear to land, traffic departure, route to route 737.
Roger.
60 seconds have now passed since the tower gave Southwest 708 the takeoff clearance.
I think that, that is a mistake. If they can't confirm if the plane is left, they should just say, okay, they're still on the runway, go around, and then they'll come back. Probably that's the safer move.
And apparently, they are still standing at the threshold. Although there is no fixed time limit for starting the takeoff roll, it is expected that pilots perform the takeoff in an expeditious way.
Southwest 70, confirm on the road.
Rolling now.
Yeah, that wording though.
Meanwhile, FedEx is descending through the fog layer and highly concentrated to look for the approach lights that show up. At about 150 feet above the ground, the fog clears up a bit and they can make out the lights of Southwest 708 still on the runway, rolling but yet very slow. They immediately initiate a go-around and they address the Southwest crew directly.
Southwest aboard. FedEx is on the go.
Southwest 708, roger, you can turn right when able.
The tower's transmission is the result of a misunderstanding, as he assumed the abort message had come from Southwest, which was informing them about aborting their takeoff run.
Negative.
The Southwest crew, however, was probably already beyond their V1 speed, and rejecting the takeoff would have been dangerous. As they were busy, they simply answered negative. This exchange shows just how confusing things can get very quickly.
I imagine none of them knew what happened.
Both planes come within 100 feet of each other, but the FedEx is able to outclimb the departing Southwest plane.
That was close.
Normally, one aircraft is not allowed to give instructions to another.
But in this case,
the fact that the FedEx crew did shows the severity of the situation. After the tower controller got things sorted out, he takes active control again and gives instructions to both airplanes that keep them separated.
1432, climb maintain 3000, when able you can turn left heading 080.
Wind turn to 0803000, FedEx 1432 heavy.
Southwest 70, you can turn left heading 170.
170,
Okay.
Two airplanes should never come this close in such a situation. At the same time, the sequence of events also shows that several procedures did work in avoiding a collision. Whether by directly seeing the Southwest on the runway or a warning of the TCAS system, the FedEx crew took timely action to stay separated from the other aircraft.
Smart.
This 1432 heavy, roger, sir. You have our apologies.
Okay, that's good. They knew they made a mistake. Fair enough. And they reported the incident, which is good.
Was it a wise decision to let Southwest go in front of FedEx while they were on a 3-mile final? In hindsight, the answer is probably no. Particularly not at a time of very low traffic, where a short 2-minute delay for Southwest 708 would have taken all the stress and risk out of the situation. On the other hand, Southwest pilots are known for their proficiency and expeditious takeoffs. Thousands of other times, such a takeoff clearance has already worked.
It's only the one
fine.
time that it doesn't happen is where things go horribly wrong.
When it comes to the ultimate question of responsibility.
But that's also the point, isn't it? If it works 1,000 times and if it doesn't work once, you better have systems in place to catch it the one or twice that it doesn't happen, which is what happened in this case, right? They just couldn't.
Full NTSB investigation will decide about that.
Good.
Since the beginning of the year, 8 cases of one-way incidents have been reported, 3 of which have already been classified as Category B. At what point it is no longer a statistically plausible accumulation, but a serious problem, is difficult to say. At least to some degree, the current media attention is highlighting something that has always happened. All of this is to prevent a repeat of history.
Right.
If you look at a list of the deadliest aviation accidents that ever happened, the number 1 spot isn't a high-altitude crash, but rather 2 planes colliding on the runway.
I didn't realize it, but that's right. Japan Air 123, we did a reaction to this, I think, a week back. It is insane how that is the single largest airplane disaster, just right after Pan Am and KLM, which is insane. And wow, Saudi and Kazakhstan, Chakdadri. Oh wait, yes, this is they had an air crash investigation episode for this. Wow, that's the 3rd. Okay, wow.
This accident occurred in 1977 between a KLM and a Pan American flight. Both planes were 747s, at the time the largest passenger plane in the world. In the cockpit of the KLM sits one of the airline's most experienced pilots, who even appears in the company's advertising. The weather had deteriorated massively, and the two planes did not see each other, nor could the tower controllers see the aircraft. While the Pan Am is taxiing down the runway, the KLM is lining up for their departure. And with the pilot under the wrong assumption that the runway is clear, they start rolling.
And well, you can't be at the same place at the same time as another plane, my dude.
How it came this far is a fascinating story, which is why I have produced another full-length video about this crash, creating detailed models and mapping out where exactly things went wrong.
K1 Floyd 05 is now ready for takeoff, and we're waiting for our ATC clearance.
This video is part of my ongoing Nebula Original series, Under Exposure, in which I explore topics that could not work on YouTube.
Wow, yeah, I think that's the video thing, right? I think that's about it. Yeah. Fair enough. That's it. That is the worst crash that never happened. And by Neo is beautifully made, really concise, to the point. I love the information the way it's provided. So, and he's right. A lot of these things usually take place because of complacency. That's just it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you beautiful bastards in the next one. Peace. Take care. Nice.